welcome to this week's special March Madness edition of The Bark. I'm TJ Foster.
And I'm Eric Young, and today we're looking at all things March Madness. We'll be breaking down the tournament field by conference and then taking a look at each region individually before taking on some bets.
All right, Eric, so this year's tournament is filled with great one seeds. We got number 1 overall Gonzaga, Pac-12 champions Arizona Wildcats, and we have 2 Big 12 teams in Kansas and Baylor. Everyone's talking about the one seeds, but I want to know, who do you think is going to be a sleeper this year to look out for?
You know, give me the Chattanooga Mocs out of the Southern Conference. You know, they got a lot of size. I know they play Illinois first round. You got Kofi Coburn down there. But, I mean, you got David Jean Baptiste and Sylvia De Sosa from Kansas, a big man, who actually averaged pretty good minutes over there. So I think they're a strong contender to take down Illinois. They make it through the first round. Man, I got them Sweet 16 for sure.
Well, thanks for that little insight. Let's give it to William, who's going to give us an overview of the conferences in the tournament this year.
Thank you, TJ and Eric. 32 conferences are participating in this year's March Madness tournament, but as you see on the screen right here, these 4 conferences consist of 27 teams in the tournament. Let's take a look at each 4 of them. We're starting off big here with the Big Ten, as the Big Ten has the most teams out of any conferences. All eyes are on the Purdue Boilermakers. All eyes are looking at future NBA stars Jaden Ivey and Trayvon Williams. And they are wondering if they will step it up on the offensive end and be dominant. But the real question is, can the 100th best team in the NCAA, Purdue Boilermakers, can they step it up on the defensive end? And a sleeper pick is the Iowa Hawkeyes. Yes, the Iowa Hawkeyes, this year's Big Ten tournament champions, ranked 4th in most points scored per game. And Keegan Murray, the team leader as far as scoring, he also will make a huge impact. As we saw, he earned a first-team All-American. Now we're moving on to the SEC Conference. The SEC Conference has multiple top seeds. 2 of these top seeds, Auburn and Kentucky, they ranked number 2 in their respective regions. These 2 had 25-plus wins in the regular season, but they didn't win the SEC tournament. But the team who did win the SEC tournament, the Tennessee Volunteers. Yes, the Tennessee Volunteers is definitely a team not to overlook, as they ranked number 3 in adjusted defense efficiency, making them a top defense in the NCAA tournament. Defense wins championships, and Tennessee could be the defense that wins the NCAA tournament. And now we are at the Big 12. Now, this could be the most dangerous conference in the entire NCAA tournament. 2 number 1 seeds, people, the Kansas Jayhawks and the Baylor Bears. Let's first look at the Kansas Jayhawks, ladies and gentlemen. They have the unmatched athleticism. They create a style of play on the offense that creates more shot opportunities. And Kansas, they don't have any problems knocking those shots down. And then we looking at the Baylor Bears, ladies and gentlemen. They have to establish themselves as a perimeter threat, shooting 41% from beyond the arc. Now, what we've seen from years past in the March Madness tournament, the three-point shot is definitely a season ender, and we could be seeing Baylor ending a whole lot of seasons. And last but certainly not least, the Big East. Now, the Big East may not have a lot of tournament favorites, but there's definitely some teams not to overlook, such as Villanova. Villanova, the Big East tournament champions, they ranked number 11 in offense efficiency rating, which means that they are very smart when it comes to finding the good shots. They're not afraid of making the extra pass and attacking the basket. So we'll definitely be seeing a lot of that. That's something to look forward to. And this last team is very interesting, folks. The Providence Friars, best team in the Big East, ranked number 1. Ed Cooley, Big East head coach of the year. Very experienced team. They have no problem, keeping the game close. But they haven't really been playing their best when it comes to the defensive end. And they're facing a red-hot team in South Dakota State who's been on fire from beyond the arc. So we could be seeing an upset, ladies and gentlemen. So that was this week's conference breakdown. Let's send it back to Eric with the West Region breakdown.
Thanks, William. First up, let's take a look at the West region, arguably one of the strongest regions in the tournament. You have 3 teams who vied for 1 seeds for much of the season: Duke, Gonzaga, and Texas Tech. And Gonzaga, of course, getting the number 1 overall seed. So the first round matchup I am most intrigued by is actually Davidson versus Michigan State. Davidson, a team who is a quality record. A lot of people saw them as underseeded. But really, I think Michigan State, a lot of people have been taking Davidson. I think Michigan State wound up getting it done just because of their talent. You got Gabe Brown, you got Max Christie, who's just an absolute bucket and a young leader. So I take Michigan State purely for their size And, everybody's picking Davidson. Let's go Michigan State here on that one. So I've been seeing a lot of upset picks in this bracket, particularly with Arkansas and UConn going down early. But for me, I'm taking Notre Dame over Alabama. We saw Notre Dame last night, and they were hitting just about anything they wanted. Of course, the defense is a little bit of an issue, but one of the strongest three-point teams in the ACC. Playing against a team, Alabama, who really struggles from the three-point line. I find it hard that Alabama will be able to keep up with Notre Dame. You just never know what Alabama team you're going to get. Sometimes they are cold as ice there, so I'll take my chances with this one. It could be a 20-point loss for Alabama for all we know. And lastly, for my pick to win the region, we have the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who've been strong for much of the season. A little bit of a collapse late there, but I'm not concerned. That defense is absolutely stifling. If you're down by 5 to the Raiders, it feels like you're down 15. They only give up less than 60 points a game. So, yep, and then Duke, they got the freshman talent there, but, you can't trust a freshman team to go all the way. And I think that'll be probably the biggest matchup in the Sweet 16. That'll be Duke and Texas Tech. And now we'll send it over to Joe Mara for Mara's Moneymakers.
Thanks, Eric. So March Madness is all about the brackets, the upsets, the Cinderella teams. But this year, according to American Gaming, 45 million people are going to place a bet on March Madness, wagering about $4.1 billion. So I'm here to help you get a little extra cash going into the weekend. So looking at the West region, first we got Vermont, +6, going against an Arkansas team. Kind of slipping as of late. Vermont's hot, senior-driven team, excellent guard play, beat UMBC, who beat Virginia a couple years ago by 30 points in their championship game. Love this play. Seems like free coin. Then, secondly, we got New Mexico State at +6.5 going up against a UConn team. Teddy Allen transferred from Nebraska, averaging about 20 points a game, and this team's 21-8 against the spread this year. Now over to Clark for the East region.
Thank you, Joe, and now I'm here to talk to y'all about the East region of this NCAA tournament, headlined by teams like the defending champion Baylor Bears, Coach Calipari's Kentucky Wildcats, and former Final Four team UCLA from a year ago. So this is a bracket loaded with talent. Let's get right into it. A key first-round matchup that I see is the St. Mary's Gales versus the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, the Gales come into this matchup with a great 12-3 conference record, including a big win over Gonzaga last month. They're headlined by two seniors in Matthias Tass and Tommy Kuhse, both of which average over 12 points, with Kuhse shooting lights out 46% from three. That's something that Indiana has struggled with all year, defending the perimeter shot. So I think St. Mary's could be a tough draw, but this Hoosiers team, in Mike Woodson's first year as head coach, have really turned some heads after the Archie Miller era. He seems to have his players wanting to play for him, including star Trace Jackson Davis, who averages 18 points and 8 rebounds. He could make some problems for the St. Mary's team. I think this certainly is a matchup to watch in the first round. Now, this is March, I got to remind you, so these are all potential matchups, but I think that this one could happen. It's the number 2 Wildcats of Kentucky versus the number 7 Racers of Murray State. Now, after a down year last year for Kentucky, uncharacteristic, Coach Calipari has brought his team back in SEC contention and tournament contention as well. And they're headlined by All-American center Oscar Tshiebwe, who averages an absurd 17 points and 15 rebounds. They're going to be back looking to be a perennial team in March, as they usually are. But this Murray State Racers team, they're coming off a 30-2 record and a perfect record in conference play. This is the best team statistically that Murray State has ever had, and they were rewarded with a 7 seed for their efforts. They've got a pair of juniors in KJ Williams and Tevin Brown, both of which were freshmen on that team that saw Ja Morant and the Racers take down Marquette a couple of years ago, so they've got experience in the tournament. And this is going to be the real test for Murray State if this game happens. Are they going to be able to take down a perennial contender in Kentucky? It's going to be interesting to see. The final potential matchup that I'm going to speak about would come in the Sweet 16 of the East bracket. It's the UCLA Bruins and the Baylor Bears. Now, the Baylor Bears, obviously the defending champs. Head coach Scott Drew has retooled and revamped this team, ready to seek another national championship. But if this matchup happens, the UCLA Bruins are certainly no slouch of an opponent. After an 11-seed play-in team last year that saw them go all the way to the Final Four, led by star Johnny Juzang, they ended up having a great season this year and are primed to be a threat. If this matchup happens, it's going to be one that you're going to want to circle on your calendar, folks. That's all we've got for the East region. We're going to send it back to Joe, who's got some money picks for you.
Thanks, Clark. Now looking at the East region, we got some fun matchups. I love UNC minus 3.5 going against Marquette. I love this game because I want to see Baylor versus UNC in that second round, and I think that's going to be a great matchup that people are going to love to watch. UNC is a hot team. They beat Duke at the end of the year. Love to see them take on the Baylor Bears, maybe a second-round upset, take them into the Sweet 16. And then secondly, we have Murray State at minus 1.5. This team's 30-2. They have not lost a game since before Christmas, and they almost beat an Auburn team earlier in the year that was a top 10 team at the time. Now let's head back over to TJ for the South region.
Thank you, Joe. I'm here to break down the South region for you guys. There are 3 teams that I think you should look out for. The first being the number 1 seed, Arizona Wildcats. Second, number 2 overall, Villanova Wildcats. And the third team being the 5th-seeded Houston Cougars. They could all make a run in this region, and I wouldn't be surprised to see any of them come out on top. In the first round, the matchup I want you guys to key in on is number 7 Ohio State against number 10-seeded Loyola. Loyola's coming into the tournament having won their past 3 games by a combined 45 points, and they don't want to stop that streak now when they go against Ohio State. In the second round, a matchup you guys should watch for is the 3-seeded Tennessee against number 6 Colorado State. Everyone's overlooking Colorado State simply because they don't come from a major conference. David Roddy is averaging 19 points and 8 rebounds per game for Colorado State, and I don't see him slowing down at all when the tournament starts, especially when they get to the second round. I feel like he's going to give the Volunteers a real shock and help lead them to a victory. A big Sweet 16 matchup that could happen, and I would love to see happen, would be number 1 seeded Arizona Wildcats against the 5th-seeded Houston Cougars. These 2 teams are kind of opposites of each other. Arizona being a high-powered offense, and Houston being a very, very strong and suffocating defense. At this point, I think defense wins championships, and I could see Houston coming out with a tough one here and moving on to the Elite 8 in the South. There you have it for the South region. I'm going to send it back to Joe.
Thanks, TJ. So for the South region, we're looking at UAB first. Plus 8.5 against a Houston team that's notorious for slow starts. Not the great conference in the American. Also, Jordan Walker is a top 15 scorer in the nation right now. I love this UAB plus 8.5. Secondly, we got Colorado State, who's a 6th seed. The Rams are an underdog against Michigan, a team that should Juwan Howard be coaching? Not sure. Should Michigan be in the tournament? I'm taking Colorado State plus 2 and money line. Love the value play here. Now let's kick it over to Bryce for the Midwest region.
What's up, everyone? It's Bryce Golden coming at you live with a expert analysis of the Midwest bracket of the NCAA tournament. Let's first start with the sleeper team. It's no surprise I got the Richmond Spiders. They're coming off an A-10 championship where they had to win 4 games in 4 days. And I think their matchup against Iowa is actually in their favor. Playing a Power 5 team, I think Iowa's the way to go. They're not super overwhelming. Obviously, they're going to have to worry about Keegan Murray, first team All-American, but I think they match up well with them at different positions and even have an advantage in some of them. Second, let's talk about my favorite to win this division of the bracket. I have the Auburn Tigers. I just think they're overwhelming with their size. They're long at every position, lengthy, athletic, and the front court of Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler can really be overwhelming. Both those dudes have had phenomenal seasons this year. Jabari Smith being a possible top 5 pick in the NBA draft, and just looking to climb up that even further with a great performance in the NCAA tournament. So finally, a tough player to watch would be Baylor Scheischerman from the North Dakota State Jackrabbits. He was the Summit League Player of the Year, shooting 47% from the three-point line, and that goes along with one of the best three-point shooting teams in the entire NCAA tournament. So I think he's going to be a fun player to watch, and don't be surprised when he takes his team on a little Cinderella run throughout the bracket. So that's my expert analysis. Passing over to you now.
Thanks, Bryce. So looking at the Midwest region, first we got the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Love this team. 30-win team. Have not lost a game since before Thanksgiving. Love this. They're going up against a Friars team in Providence that's kind of slipping as of late. Not sure what they're looking like going into the tournament. This is a team that I honestly would take South Dakota State money line and plus 2. And then secondly, we got Colgate going up against a Wisconsin team that's kind of been in a rut as of late. Big Ten tournament, not a great showing. And so I love Colgate plus 7.5. And then lastly, looking at championship winners, you can take conferences. So right now you got SEC at plus 340, which you got teams like Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn. And then looking at the Big 12, you get the 2 1 seeds at plus 400 with Kansas and Baylor. These are easy picks for championship winners. Got lots of options. You got teams like Texas Tech also in the Big 12. But these are plays that can actually be a championship winner, unlike a WCC with Gonzaga. So that's all for the betting segment today, and I'm going to send it back over to the guys at the desk.
Well, Eric, the field is set. Who do you have in the Final Four and winning the whole thing?
Give me Texas Tech with that defense. Give me Purdue, Villanova, easily the best team in the Big East, and lastly, Kansas will take the last spot. And I like Texas Tech to win it all. All right, TJ, who do you got?
I have UCLA, Duke, Arizona, and Auburn. And in the championship game, I'm taking UCLA and Auburn, and I think Auburn's going to run away with it. So we'll see how that turns out.
And there you have it, folks. That's it for this week's special edition of March Madness. Be sure to check us out at Butler360sports.com. And for everyone here at The Bark, I'm Eric Young.
And I'm TJ Foster. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode.